what's the next step for your program outside of the tangible, hosting regional, those sorts of things? What's maybe the next step you guys want to take as you kind of evolve?
Yeah, I mean, just that. Just having a chance to host a regional, being in position to play home games. I think that's pretty well documented that's the most desirable route to get to Omaha, to get to the World Series, is to play at home. And with the crowds that we have, the facility that we have, we feel like we have a pretty good home field advantage. So we got a long way to go, this year to start that journey. But year in and year out, I think you just put yourself in position to play well enough and consistently enough, and it starts at the beginning of the year and not, giving games away that you feel like not easing into it. I mean, you've got to go in head first and have the best chance of getting your pitching lined up, the lineup, the guys you feel like you can count on. I do feel like last year playing the conference-only schedule made us get to that point maybe a little bit sooner. But just having that urgency to do that day in and day out to give us a shot to win enough games to host a regional, I think that's the next step, is to get back to that point where you're at least in the conversation every year as to using our great facility for postseason games.
You have to kind of remind guys, even guys that were here last year, that you have to have that urgency right away now with non-conference games at the end of their weeks.
Yeah, I think it's a daily reminder for all of us that we're not going to fast forward and get back to the spot we were at. I mean, I think that's where it's tough for an 18 to 22-year-old, let alone for, us coaches to say, hey, let's just get back to the spot we were at, So it's a culmination of preparation throughout the entire year, and things that we harp on daily. Gets probably a little old for our guys to hear it, but it's what they hear every day.
You named the 4 captains, and Nebraska went a while without naming captains. What are the standards that those captains sort of operate by?
Yeah, relentless enthusiasm, showing up every day with a great attitude, great mindset. They're setting the standard every day. They're team players. They're selfless. They're going to do, they've got to be able to be willing to do what it takes to be great team players before they can ask their teammates to do that. They've got to show up and be very consistent. So they don't have to all be exactly the same. I mean, they've all got different personalities. And we want them to be themselves, and we don't want them to feel like they've got to be coaches either, because it's hard enough to have to take care of your own business as a player. But they care an awful lot, and I feel like just having certain guys, the team has input on it, the coaches have input on it. It gives them a sense of pride, I think, getting named that, and then also just they have to hold themselves to that standard every day. So I'm excited about the group that we have to lead us.
Common characteristic that those 4 guys share, and is there a little extra value too that 3 of those guys are from within the state?
Yeah, I think they all share that their care factor is really high. I think it's easy for their teammates to see every day how much they care. They don't even have to say a word without everybody knowing that in the building and on the field. And they're some of our more talented players too. And so I think that those things go hand in hand. It doesn't always have to be that way. It doesn't always have to be your 3-hole hitter or your Friday starter, but you would hope that those guys would be in consideration to be your leaders because they're some of your best players. So, and I've said this before, the best teams are the ones that the best players are setting the highest standard.
When it comes to Kyle Perry, what role is he competing for this year?
KP will be competing for an early weekend spot. I think he's a guy that at this point in his career, whatever role we put him in, I think he would excel. I think his skill set will allow him to navigate through the lineup multiple times, which is what you want in a starter. He's going to be very competitive. So, I think he's going to be fighting for, that top spot in the rotation, whether it be Friday or Saturday right now. But he'll be willing to fulfill whatever role that is. But I think right now we're looking at best way he can help the team is at the front of the game as a starter.
Well, how much confidence do you have in Griffin Everett, not only offensively but defensively?
Yeah, he's got an awful lot of experience already, catching a lot of games last year. We were talking about as a staff and even with Griff, this time last year, there was still some uncertainty, because he was catching Division I pitching for the first time, getting in his first Division I game. he has the absolute trust of all of our pitchers at this point in time. Just all the bullpens that he catches, just his leadership. That's the next step that he's taken as a catcher, is just you hear his voice a lot more, and his body language exudes a lot more confidence. So he is just in a much different place than he was at this time last year, which we knew we were getting a good player. And you kind of saw him, play himself in a pretty prominent role offensively at the end of the year last year. And I feel like he's just really set himself up to have a very consistent year, both offensively and defensively.
The offensive piece of it too, I mean, how much is that helped by him being more comfortable too? And he had a pretty good fall.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot that goes into that, just feeling for him right now, the difference between now and the beginning of the year last year, and even at times, even at the end of the year when he was going better, he's able to get the barrel to the fastball a lot more consistently. So that lets you relax a little bit more in the box. And I think he just feels like he's in a really good spot all the way around. And yeah, I mean, he feels very confident because of that.
Talked about being in that kind of 7 to 8 guys in the mix for rotation or starting spots. How is that maybe whittled down or had more clarity now that you guys have had a chance to get out there a little bit?
Yeah, we've had multiple live outings now for our pitchers. So we need 4 starters the first weekend with the 4-game series. So I think there's probably a couple of guys maybe that have been more consistent than others in that position in particular. We also have to look at the best way our pitching staff sets up. So we have some guys that maybe could certainly be a starter, but maybe the team needs them to be out of the pen, and that kind of helps line up the pitching a little bit easier. So, we're starting to pare that down a little bit. This will be the last. We'll scrimmage Thursday, Friday, Saturday this week, and 2 of those will be outdoors. We've only had the Saturday scrimmages the last 2 weeks outside. So we've only seen a certain set of pitchers that have been able to get outside and throw on the mound, which that makes a difference too. So we'll see a little bit different set of guys this week that'll be able to pitch outside and compete in a different setting. So I would anticipate having that nailed down after this weekend.
How about on the other side in terms of closing job and stuff like that? How many guys are still in the mix for that potentially?
For closer? I would say the development of Colby Gomez at this point in time has really kind of helped solidify some things with our pitching staff. Going into it, what he's had to come back from physically, not a whole lot of guys have been able to do. And so he's put in a ton of hard work. I'm thrilled where he's at physically, mentally. I mean, he's a 4th-year guy now in college, and he takes care of his business like a grown-up does. And so he's got the experience to close. I mean, I think he's certainly a guy that if he continues to stay healthy and do what he's doing, he's going to get opportunities at the backside of the game for sure. And there's probably 2 or 3 other guys that if he's not available, do we have to ease him in? How's he going to do on back-to-back days? Those type of things. I think there's certainly other guys that are more than capable, and we've got 2 or 3 of them that we feel like we could close with too.
What was it kind of like for him getting back and facing live hitters again, kind of given what he's been through for the last year and a half? I mean, for the team too. I mean,
yeah, Colby is a baseball player. I mean, he came in as a 2-way guy. Tried to transition to a starter, then he got hurt, so he had to do a lot of observing. Now he's hitting again for us, playing some first base. I think he's just kind of got a rejuvenated mindset when it comes to some of that stuff, and I think he's the type of guy that will feed off that a little bit. I've never 1 second will ever worry about him competing. Like that's the thing. Like, so him having, throwing his bullpens or having a live hitter in there doesn't really change a lot, because he's just going to attack. Like he's going to bring his best stuff at you. So there hasn't been a whole lot of wondering, where his mindset is at. Once we saw that he was healthy, feel like he's gonna go compete, and he's been in the moment before, and he's seen the ups and downs. I mean, he's been through a lot in his career, so feel like he's just a guy that's going to go out there and compete.
Coach, with reserve seats being sold out at Haymarket Park, I mean, you've been around it as a player and now as a coach. I mean, how intense can a dugout be, that home dugout be, on a Friday night at Ox Field?
Yeah, first of all, thrilled to hear just the way the season ticket sales have gone. And, I've said this before, big reason that I chose to come to Nebraska, and I know a lot of our players, is just that fan support, that unbelievable fan base that we have and them getting behind us. But, yeah, I feel like we've got a great home field advantage. They help bring the energy in the stadium and gives us a boost. And I know our guys are thrilled to get back out and play at home when that happens. And to know that we've got – the season tickets sold out, I think is a testament to how passionate our fan base is.
How valuable is it to?
I'm going to get to.
Coach, what's impressed you the most about how your team has handled the success of last season?
I don't ever hear him talk about it. I mean, there's never really been any sort of indication that we feel like we've arrived or that we've got this fake confidence going on because of what past success we've had. Like, there's just never really a conversation that's had. I don't ever feel like I've got to go put anybody in their place because we're getting, ahead of our skis a little bit, so to speak, because we feel like we've arrived. I mean, I just think the humble nature about the quiet confidence, I would say, that our team operates with, I'm proud of, because they're confident enough to know that we're going to be good, but also humble enough to know that we got to show up and work every day to get where we want to get to. So, that part of it, I just don't even really have to worry about. I mean, we talk about it daily in terms of just being in the moment, but I'm just proud of how they operate. We just don't. They're very low maintenance, and we don't have to put them in their place very often. Sorry.
How valuable is it to get outside in February? I mean, is that overblown, or is that really pretty helpful as you guys get ready for the season?
It is not overblown, especially if you're an outfielder, because you actually get to see balls off the bat, and we're trying to break in some, potential new spots in the outfield. And so that part of it is huge. And it's just some of the other stuff that you don't really get to get done indoors very well, the cuts and relays where you're actually on a baseball field, and just as a hitter, just kind of it's good and bad. I think the good that comes from hitting inside all the time is you got tunnel vision, literally. Like, you're not worried about a fence and trying to chase, power. So I think that serves you well at times. So even when we hit on the field, we've got to make sure that we're dialed in that way. But, yeah, it's valuable. I mean, getting used to playing in, even we've had warm weather, but it's still not super comfortable all the time, like a lot of wind or the elements, those type of things. I mean, those are things you can't really – duplicate indoors. So, yeah, it's been huge that we've had the weather that we've had to get outside.
Is this as much as you've been outside here, whether coach, player?
As far as I can remember, yeah. Yeah, I don't remember as having as many live at-bats outside. Maybe a practice here and there where you get to take ground balls or fly balls, just sneak out when it's 38 degrees or something. But having full scrimmages this many early, I think it's probably the most we've seen. Yep.
I know Rob Childress' role is limited with the players, but how helpful is it for him to be just kind of a sounding board for you, and he can give his feedback to you whenever you need it?
He's the best of the best. I mean, I'm super thankful that he's here for not only me but our entire coaching staff. His wisdom, his knowledge, the things he's seen, he just is. It's invaluable for us for him to be at practice and be able to say, "Hey, did you notice this?" In practice, or him to put his arm around a guy, that maybe needs a boost of confidence. That just that mentor role, and he's not only mentoring the players but the coaches too. I mean, he's been all of our mentors at one point or another, and that's just continued. So he just brings a great mindset to the team, to the field, the toughness part that we're seeking to be all about. He's lived it for years and years and years. So he brings an unbelievable dynamic to our staff.
Do you have a sense yet, I guess, of what you guys can kind of be offensively, given how many new pieces you're going to have and how that's going to shape out?
Yeah, I think, you're going to see some guys that have taken a step forward that are returners. We've already spoken about Griff, and I think there's some other guys in there that are much improved offensively. We got a lot of freshmen that came in, and again, the thing I always look to is like you can pretty easily tell right away if a guy belongs. Just can he get to good velocity without cheating to it? And we've got several guys that fit that mold. So we hit more home runs this fall, I think, than any of us thought we would. I don't know if that's necessarily a trend. I mean, we've seen it a little bit this spring too. I know it's hard to tell sometimes in the indoor. It's always a debate. The exit velocity and the launch angle, does it add up? Like, is it a home run or a double? But I think we're going to impact the ball. I think we're going to be pretty balanced in terms of, being diverse. So, yeah, I think that we're going to have a chance to have a solid offense top to bottom. I don't think there's any easy outs in there. And I think kind of the trend you'll see is most of the guys that we roll out there are going to have a chance to impact the ball. So that's always a good feeling to have, that if the pitcher makes a mistake, you can make him pay with an extra base hit.
You guys gonna be able to run the way that you did last year too? I know a lot of it was Hallmark. But.
Yeah, usually when you have teams that have a lot of stolen bases, you have one guy that's got quite a few, and Hallmark led the Big Ten, I believe, or close, to leading. I think Sartori's got a shot, if he gets on base enough to be that type of player in terms of stolen bases. I think we've got a handful of other guys that can do it. We're going to push the envelope and see, especially early. We're athletic. I mean, I think we've got plenty of guys in there that, maybe a guy like Matthews jumps up and goes from a 7 stolen base guy to a 15 stolen base guy, and then you kind of start to feel like you've got some dynamic pieces there.